We're back with another Q&A video, and I'd like to thank all of you who posted questions and those of you who've posted questions in the past. It's the result of all of us together that make these videos come to be. So thank you. Let's begin. We'll start out with a question that's been posted quite often. During your time with the Lucchese's, which other New York family did you personally do business with the most while on the street? Once again, I had the most interactions with the Gambino family during my time. Do you think with the Comey indictment, any cases that he was involved in could get revisited with possible overturnment? Anytime something like this takes place, all cases where the indicted person was involved will come under review and possibly be brought to appeals court. This was one of the reasons the government no longer wanted to use Gaspipe as a witness. His testimony challenged that of another government witness, and multiple cases would have been affected. Does anyone think the FBI and the government didn't know Gaspipe's character when they offered him a cooperation agreement? Wouldn't it make sense at that time to flat out deny him and not draw up an agreement? The government, and specifically the DOJ, is full of shit. You say you met Lee Farmer as a fellow member when you were involved in that life. What was your impression of him, and did you have any dealings with him, or was the meeting more of just an introduction to one another? May I ask the same about Angelo Ruggiero Jr.? I did meet Lee and was officially introduced to him, but there was no meeting, just an introduction. We were walking into a place, and he was walking out. And I ran into him again in another place in Staten Island, and I also had no business dealings with him. I would describe Lee as high energy and a little on the loud side. Angelo Jr., I met during a business meeting that took place between us and the Gambinos. He was more quiet and reserved. The one thing I didn't like about him was he brought a conversation back to Ernie that I always found to be petty. Both Lee and Angelo seemed to be good guys as far as the street goes. I was listening to a story about John Gotti Sr. refusing to let members of his family take pleas and push them to go to trial. His reasoning was that by taking a plea, you're basically admitting the mafia exists, and the government uses this information to prosecute other members. Is this logical in your opinion? To start with, if John Gotti felt so strongly about guys taking pleas, then that same rule should have applied to his son, who took a plea in April 1999. And it's not logical to think anyone is admitting to an organization that the government absolutely knows exists, especially since every racketeering indictment begins with a breakdown of the structure of the mafia. Did you ever meet any members that were younger than you during your time? If so, was it rare? Not younger, but somewhere around my age. I believe over time, you'll see younger guys getting straightened out because the pickings are slim. It's my understanding that when Lucky Luciano began to restructure the mob, he didn't want the position of boss of bosses to be a part of it. And it's always been my understanding such a position did not exist in title or principle. However, over the years, I've heard many references to bosses like Carlo Gambino or Paul Castellano as such. Is this just people on the outside trying to illustrate relative power, or was there actually some merit to the title? From my understanding, there were certain bosses who had a lot of influence among other commission members, like Carlo Gambino, for instance. I believe the media labeled certain people with the title boss of bosses. There never was a singular boss who ruled the 5 families, which would represent such a title. In belated honor of both Halloween and Ozzy Osbourne, are you a fan of Ozzy by chance? Also, do you have any favorite Halloween memories from your childhood or maybe a party in your youth? I wouldn't call myself a fan of Ozzy Osbourne, but in the past, I've listened to Black Sabbath. As far as Halloween, one of my earlier memories was when my friends and I in Howard Beach dressed like bums and had shaving cream fights. All things most of us kids did back then. In the American Mafia, the general rule not to mess with a member's personal family, kids, wife, etc. Do you think this is the same rule being practiced in Sicilian Cosa Nostra, Camorra, and the 'Ndrangheta today? I would say, in principle, yes. They respect other members' families. On the other hand, they have no problem killing those same family members if need be. more so in the past than the present. I'm curious, when a person in that life says so and so is very capable, a dangerous guy, who is he comparing him to? Aren't you supposed to all be capable in that life? I don't believe that statement is one of comparison. Someone's stating their opinion about another person. And yes, everyone in that life should be capable, but more often than not, that's not the case. Let me briefly just make a small request. Please don't question me about intro music. For example, wanting to know the name of a certain song. I have my reasoning why I don't answer. Additionally, I think by now, viewers are aware, at least the intelligent ones, not to bring up questions regarding the numbers of guys in a crew, members or associates, or how many members are there in a certain family. I didn't spend my time in that life counting people. So please don't waste your time on mine. Thank you. Did you make more money from your illegal activities or from associates kicking up? Being that I kept my circle very small when it came to associates, they were not a significant part of my earnings. I'm curious to know how an average wise guy views civilians in regard to being a potential domestic problem. Just because you might have an advantage to gain dominance in a confrontation doesn't mean you should ever go look to find yourself in one. And certainly doesn't mean you're guaranteed to come out on top. The obvious unlawful choices of a wise guy seems rational enough to apply the same principles when dealing with the public, regardless of what their status is. Okay, in general, wise guys view civilians as beneath them. I've mentioned this before many times. They call civilians suckers and will use the natural advantage they have over civilians because at the end of the day, their motto is, we may lose the battle, but we'll win the war. But this doesn't always work out that way. Like, for instance, Lucchese member Bubsy Castelli tried using that advantage as a member and got cracked in the face. This isn't the 80s. If you get stupid, wise guy or not, you can get a bad decision just like the next guy. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a like, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. Anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more importantly, help me to continue making them, you can donate with the Super Thanks icon down below, or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let me quickly mention my blog, also called Sit Down News, especially for those of you who still enjoy reading. The site can be found at sitdownnews.com and is a paid subscription. And for the final question, what is the most memorable piece of wisdom you ever received from a mentor in that life? I can say this. I was fortunate enough to have received many words of wisdom, but the most memorable and words that often echo in my head is the following. The mob you once knew is over. Stay away so you don't have to learn this the hard way. True words that I wished I listened to.